This is based on sub-theme 2, which is based on the capacity building of early childhood workforce. And today I'm going to be the chairperson for this session. My name is Rekha Menon, and I'm the ECC specialist at Foundation for Communities of Learning, Pune based NGO, and also the treasurer at AECET. Along with me, we have Shobha Bharat, who is the HOD at SNDT University, Ghatkopar. And we also have two presenters today. I think we haven't heard from Simranjeet, one of the poster presenters, but we would have loved to have her too. Uh, so we'll begin with your presentation, Sharmila. We have around 45 minutes with us. So Sharmila and Dharti, you both are presenting today. And just to set the ground, it'll be nice if you can take 10 minutes to do your presentation, Sharmila. We'll begin with you, and then we'll take a 2 minute time to we're asking people to post their questions or feedback or comments, if any, in the chat box.
Sure,
And after
definitely.
that, we will have Dharti second presentation. And Shobha is going to help us keep the time. She is going to remind us at 5 minutes, after 5 minutes, and then a minute before the closing. Is
Sure.
that fine with everybody?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's begin with you, Sharmila.
Sure.
So over to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Menon. I'm Sharmila Lele from Cathedral and John Connon School, Mumbai, infant section. I will be sharing the screen. So just give me a moment. Hope it is visible, the screen.
Yes, Sharmila, we can
Okay,
see.
that's lovely. All right. So, I'm going to take you through our experience in developing and strengthening reading in post pandemic foundational years. That's my main topic. And of course, as we move along, you will also see what have been the key challenges in the areas of reading during the pandemic, and what were the innovative and sustainable and replicable strategies used by us, and how did we build stronger bridges with parents through innovative collaborations. So we have children in senior KG and grade 1 and in our section, and these children are 5 to 7 years of age, and class strength of these students is 30 students per class, and we have four such student classes. So in all there are about 120 students in senior KG and 120 in grade 1. This is the background. Now, when we talk about reading at foundational level, what are we looking at? We are looking at vertical as well as horizontal approach. This is for all 240 students in both the grades. Now, vertical approach is curricular approach, it is grade wide approach, and the activities are planned as per the curriculum. Whereas when we look at horizontal approach, it is a widespread approach. We are looking at a variety of experiences for the children. We look at building literacy rich homes. We are looking at visits to the libraries. We are looking at giving them many, many choices. We are looking at fiction, non-fiction, poetry, even at that age. So when we talk about fiction, approach is different than non-fiction. Doing research, making connections and having a lot of reading strategies into the picture. So fiction and non-fiction and poetry, all these enrich students' experiences. We look at developing students' reading skills as well, that is fluency, decoding, expressions, comprehension. Of course, building reading vocabulary is one of the main tasks. Enriching vocabulary gives them the confidence of attacking any word, a new word as well. Then we read with strategies, that is prediction, visualization, making connections, retailing. Many such strategies help in strengthening students' comprehension. Now, as we hit the pandemic in March 2020, we faced a lot of challenges, during online school. Though we went online within 3 days, but we realized that there are many challenges that we are going to face ahead as we realize that the pandemic is here to stay. First and foremost, it was the online presence and interaction. So we did not have any physical presence, and online presence is very different. These are small 30 windows, and even though we divided the class into 15 each in each group, but still there were those small windows and a teacher in one of those windows, and it was very difficult to connect physically. It lacked human touch, to be frank. Group dynamics were missing. Children are learning in group, there is tolerance, there is taking turns. There are a lot of group dynamics that go along learning. So that was missing completely. And most importantly, parental understanding, because the parents were filling up teachers' shoes. Teachers were giving the instructions, but the parents were with the children and carrying out teachers' instructions. Even though during live classes, teachers were presenting, but quite a lot of work was done by the parents. So it was important that parents understood what we were doing. So that was one of the challenges that we faced. So, what did we do when these challenges came to us, and as we faced them? We decided to launch a guided reading program. Now, today I'm going to talk about reading. There were many parallel programs that we carried out so that the learning could be sustained. But we launched a guided reading program called GRP, the short form, to take care of our young readers. Now, this was to understand students' reading levels, first of all. The guided reading program helped us to do that. Then, to focus on smaller groups of yet developing readers. Now, these yet developing readers are the ones who really need that support from everybody in school, that is, the teachers, the LRC staff, everyone. And these readers need a lot of hand holding, they need focused attention. So these yet developing readers were to be, uh, uh, there in smaller groups. Then to use the available technology while upgrading ourselves professionally. So we upgraded ourselves professionally as we came across a lot of
Excuse me,
technology.
Sharmila.
Yes,
Five
please.
minutes. Five
Yes,
minutes are done.
sure.
Yeah.
To triangulate with parents for a strong home reading program, that was again very important. Our methods and strategies were selection, so identifying the yet developing readers from each class, um, and then providing equal reading opportunities to all students through the first 2 months of senior KG, that is the whole class, and then carrying out age appropriate time and appropriate reading evaluation to gauge their reading levels, and then shortlisting the yet developing readers, which would not be more than 15 to 16 children in that GRP group. We looked at online interactive parent meetings where we briefed parents on GRP and explaining their role at home. We discussed reading strategies and techniques to be used, and stressing on the importance of read aloud sessions as well as independent reading by their child. Read aloud sessions allowed parents to read aloud higher level books, whereas children read their own level books during independent reading. Now, conducting the follow up meetings every 6 weeks to apprise parents on the progress of their child, and monitoring the home reading program. Use of technology, of course, we had to have a platform so that we could interact online with parents. And we launched the Google Classroom, especially for GRP, along with other classrooms, where we could collaborate and communicate with parents, giving constructive feedbacks, private as well as a group feedback. So we went online, live classes, 3 classes a week, focusing on individual, paired, and group reading experiences. All three helped in the right kind of development. Individual was one-on-one, paired was with a buddy, and group was in a group where the children could blossom. Using breakout rooms, various online apps and games, of course, was a part of it, and creating an online reading environment using all these was possible. Then planning of sensorial experiences. Now we are looking at planning and execution. So planning of sensorial experiences, enriching reading with graded readers, passages, words prepared by us, using differentiation techniques, because even these yet developing readers, they were at different levels. So the whole group was never at the same level. So there also we had to use differentiation techniques, using decoding strategies, developing speed reading, and teaching tracking skills. Again, typographical presentation extremely important for visual appeal, because if something doesn't look nice, the students are not going to really like to look at it. So spacing, font, use of color, pictures, interesting topics, movement, everything we work towards very mindfully. Guided reading program helps students to read with curiosity and interest. It helps them to understand different approaches to different genres. And of course, it helps them to develop reading, inferential, and word attack skills. It also helps them to use various reading strategies when reading. Extremely important, this point is towards comprehension building. And finally, to be confident readers. Now, the guided reading program spans across senior KG year and the first 2 months of grade 1. So, we are looking at 14-month long GRP that helps students to develop speedily in the right direction. And at the end of 14 months, the students who still need further development continue to receive the additional support from our LRC, that is, our special educators and the teachers in LRC, Learning Resource Center, that continues throughout grade 1. So, both the years at infant section are really catering towards laying a very strong foundation for our readers. Now,
Sorry
guided
to interrupt, Sharmili. If you could wind up quickly, Sharmila.
Yes, a guided reading program is easy to follow, and it meets individual needs of emerging readers. It is helpful in triangulating with parents of young learners. So, all I can say in the end is the ECC can have a very powerful impact on laying strong and powerful reading foundations of the young learners. And it is an important task for us teachers to cater to this. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sharmila. That was really very interesting,
Thank you.
and it's so elaborate and yet so meticulously planned and executed. Must give you the complete what do you say, credit of doing it in such a beautiful way and taking care of the fine nuances that is there in this high skilled task which the children of course have to engage. And during the pandemic, making it online using the technologies available, and Google Classroom is really a nice forum for parents and for teachers too. So it was really very well what do you say, executed program, and as well as research based what you have done. I really, one thing which I really appreciate in this entire approach is the differential aspect that you have, and how for each child, of course, we know each child's learning capacities are different, and how you could facilitate through the learning reading program is very well brought out in your presentation. Uh, that's one thing which really caught my eye. um, Dharti, Shobha, would you like to say something, add
Yes,
something?
the foundational years are so important, for developing the interest and the skills for reading, which really makes the basis of their academic success later on. So I really like the effort and concentrated effort to bring in, a whole strategy, and also specially develop strategies during the time of COVID. In that sense, I think that was a commendable, uh, project that you took up for the children. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both. Yeah, Miss Menon.
And
Yeah.
I think I completely agree with both of them. It's a very unique program, and it considering the challenges of online learning, and I think I really like what you do. So all the best, and thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much. And we plan to think of various ways of continuing it in even in our physical, environment. Now that we are back to school. Yeah. Thank you
It's
so
a
much.
great idea. Yes, you do
Thank you.
need to
Yeah.
have those efforts. Yes.
Yes.
That's
Thank
really nice to know. I request all the attendees to post their questions in the chat box or in the Q&A so that Sharmila can take them at the end of the session. Uh, while they post their questions, Dharti, can we move on to your presentation and would you like to begin?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Rekha ma'am. So I'll begin with sharing my screen. Just a second.
Sure, go ahead.
So I hope you can see my screen.
Not yet. It isn't. Yeah, there it has come up. It's coming up. Yeah.
Right. So I'll quickly begin with introducing myself. I am Dharti Patel, and I've just finished my graduation in early childhood care and education specialization from the Human Development Department of Sir Vittaldas Thakre College of Home Science, SNDT University, Mumbai. And today I'm going to
Dharti, one
present my.
second, if I can interrupt you. Can you put it on slideshow so that we can see it more
Yes,
clearly?
ma'am, it is on slideshow.
Sharmila ma'am is continuously presenting a screen. So,
Okay, Sharmila, we will have to
No,
stop.
ma'am, yeah,
it's me actually. I am presenting myself.
Yeah,
okay, fine.
Dharti is presenting actually. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay, go ahead, Dharti.
Right, okay. I hope it's on slideshow mode now. I'll just go ahead. So, I'm going to be presenting my research paper titled Assessment Problems Faced by Preschool Teachers, Perceptions and Experiences. So, to begin with, assessment of children's learning is an important and crucial part of any high quality early childhood program. And early childhood assessment is the process of observing, recording, and otherwise documenting the work that children do and how they do it. It covers a broad range of procedures used to gather information that's relevant to the understanding and functioning and development of young children, like having observational records, parent teacher conversations, standardized methods, etc. However, there are some problems that teachers faced when it comes to assessing young children on their part. So, a teacher's subjective definition of assessment, her tool or method of assessment used in the classroom, her subjective mood on any particular day, which sometimes give a flawed record of assessment, and subjective bias towards the students based on areas of gender, religion, language differences, physical appearance, socioeconomic status, learning style, and lastly, her own personal or cultural values that guide her instruction or way of assessment. So, with that, we can say that several studies around the world have examined teachers' knowledge, attitudes, and practices about educational assessment. And we can say that child traits such as and professional barriers such as knowledge, competence, attitudes, and experiences, and most importantly, the training and qualification of people who interact with preschool children. They're all important factors in determining appropriate assessment procedures. So there are major researches done by Ackerman, Dunn, and Whitebook that talk about effects of teacher qualification on assessment procedures and records. So my idea behind researching on this particularly unique topic was trying to understand the workforce and striving to improve quality of teaching and learning on our part through the findings. So with
Dharti, if
that,
I may interrupt, have you
yes,
moved on to different slides? Because we can
yes, I
still
have.
see slide number one only being displayed.
Right.
Okay, the objectives of the study, right?
I'll just stop sharing and I'll share it again.
Yeah, sure. Just reconfirming, we can see objectives of the study.
Right, ma'am. Just a second.
Try it once more. let's come to introduction.
Right. So is the objective screen visible?
It's the introduction one now. Yeah, objective has come.
Right. So I will now talk about my research study. The main objective of this study is to identify the problems faced by teachers while assessing children in preschool settings based on their educational qualification in relation to their methodology, their subjective modes, their subjective bias, their choice of tool or rubric used, their subjective definition of assessment. The design of my research is quantitative, and since it was the pandemic time, I had created a Google form and a survey questionnaire tool. It was used to circulate it to only to preschool teachers, and the total number of participants that responded were 30. And I have divided my questionnaire on the basis of three domains, that is, assessment techniques or tools used, factors affecting assessment, and the problems faced by teachers. Participants were approached by convenience sampling method, and the inclusion criteria was minimum 2 years of experience in preschool settings. So the first part of my questionnaire was background information, and the statistics for age range is given in the graph shown on the screen. On the left-hand side, the age range of participants were from 21 to 50 years of age, highest being 21 to 25 years of age. And on the right, the participants' experience in the preschool field in years is given in category shown on the screen, the highest being 2 to 4 years of experience among 2 to 10 plus years of age. So the question about the highest level of formal education completed by the participants was divided into three categories, which were diploma, bachelor's, and a master's. So it was found that among the 30 participants that responded to the questionnaire, 12 completed a diploma, 11 completed a bachelor's, and 7 participants completed a master's degree in early child care and education specialization or in education. So for my research, I have studied the factors, tools, and problems only pertaining to the educational qualification. In my first domain, that is techniques and tools used by preschool teachers, we can see that the blue graph denotes participants who have completed diploma, the red denotes the bachelor's, and the yellow graph denotes the master's. The graph display shows that there is an evident increase in the use of both methods of assessment. 83% of people who have had completed a diploma degree, 91% of people who had completed a bachelor's degree, and 86 people who have completed a master's degree stated both have used both methods of assessment, that is formal and informal, for assessing preschool children. Evidently, it shows that there is an increased usage of both formal and informal method when it comes to assessing preschoolers. So in this question, the common tools are
Sorry to interrupt you, Dharti. We have
yes,
finished 5 minutes, so you still have
sure.
time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. To highlight the inferences, we can see that participants in all three types of educational qualifications have said that informal comparisons to similar children is unreliable to a higher extent, after which conversations with parents and families and specific child assessments have come in second. So this also shows that there's an inconsistency, as conversation with parents and families and specific child assessments are the tools that are used the most across all three educational qualifications by them. So we now come to the second domain, that is factors affecting assessment. The first question was, do you think your subjective bias towards student affects the assessment record? In the responses received, it's seen that most participants across all three qualifications have said that their subjective bias affects their records. So in the category who have people who have completed their diploma, 42% have said no, 58% have said yes. Similarly, in the bachelor's, 64 participants have said yes, and in the people who have completed their master's degree, 86% participants have said yes. This finding is consistent with previous researches, as Ackerman had said that teachers who have a higher educational qualification are more self-aware of their shortcomings in the classroom. So in the graph shown on the right side of the screen, it's seen that most teachers believe that subjective moods on any given day affect the students' assessment records. So in the category of participants who have completed a diploma, 33% have said yes. In the bachelor's degree category, 55% of participants have said yes. And in the master's degree category, 43% of people have said yes. So for the third question, Do you think your own cultural and personal values affect the students' assessment records? It is seen that most teachers denied having their own cultural and personal values affect the student assessment records. For the participants who have completed the diploma, 33% said yes. For the bachelor's degree category, 45% said yes. And in their master's degree, 43% of participants have said yes. So, in conclusion, all three qualifications have denied that their cultural and personal values affect. However, we can see that the findings do not go in accordance with previous researches, as Diller and Moore have said that teachers must be conscious of the cultural values that guide their instruction and recognize that these may come in conflict with the students' cultural customs, which may or may not affect teaching, learning, and assessment practices. So in the figure on the right, it's seen that there's a distinguishable change in the statistics. So here we have, do you think your tool or rubric for assessment affects the assessment records? So the people who have completed the diploma have 42% have said yes. In the category of people who have completed their bachelor's, 64% people have said yes. And in the category of people who have completed their masters, we can see similar statistics as compared to when people complete a diploma. So as teachers and assessors, they should make every effort to ensure that the tool, technique, and method of assessment does not occur in the administration of an assessment, because such assessments not only prove to be unreliable or invalid, but also provide flawed results to parents. There was a subjective question asked uh, on what their opinions on assessment are. The responses that are received were varied but focused on the fact that assessment is a measure or an ongoing system to analyze the progression of the child on multiple levels, including physical, intellectual, creative, and most importantly, socio emotional changes. It focuses on task completion and gathering information about a child's developmental milestone. Some have talked about how it is a factor of stress for young minds, and comparing them to their peers instead of their capabilities causes them more stress. Pressure that they're being judged might give an inconsistent record to parents, and few have talked about how assessment helps them monitor their teaching styles and methods and efficiency in delivering concepts, and helps them realize whether their goals and teaching methods are developmental appropriate, through which they can gauge the child's comprehension and determine their strengths and set the goals accordingly. We now come to domain 3, and it focuses on the problems faced by teachers while assessing.
Dhalti, sorry to interrupt. You're 8 minutes over, so you can wind up as soon as possible.
Right, I'll just quickly wind up. Here, the teachers talked about the child's moods like inattention, emotional tantrums, and they've said that it becomes difficult to assess children because of their moods, and personal bias also creates a problem. They've also talked about developmental variability, uh, and it becomes difficult for them to keep a track, and it's a concern for teachers throughout as they feel that they're different every day and change at a faster rate, thus keeping a track of the developmental milestones become challenging. So to conclude, I would like to say that assessment that is well planned and implemented can help to improve teaching and contribute to better outcomes and performances for children. It can play a critical role in improving children's well-being, but only if they are executed efficiently by the teachers and appropriately understood and utilized. While this study has only highlighted the relationship between educational qualification of teachers and assessment practices, there can be researches done that differ in variables like developmental variability or children's moods. So with that, I come to the end of my research. Thank you for your time and attention and the opportunity to present my paper. I'll stop screen sharing now.
Thank you, Dharti. Uh, yeah, so we have some comments in the chat box for you already. Swati says, so true, in small preschools, the moods and emotional needs at the time are critical to look at the time of assessment, of course. And
Right.
yeah, and you have pointed out that. So it's very nice that you have highlighted it.
I think I would agree
Uh,
because most teachers have said that their moods and the emotional moods sometimes have a difficulty in assessing preschoolers, because sometimes I don't want to do coloring, I don't want to do this. Thus, their fine motor skills aren't really assessed at that moment. So it does provide a flawed result to parents sometimes. It's an important factor, right?
Yeah, and I just thought today's plenary we had Professor Jennings who was reiterating. I mean, she highlighted the moods and of the educators too, and I thought that could add in your suggestions. You have already said in your suggestions about. I think what you have said is about experience to be explored and the researches that could be taken up. And I think after hearing Professor Jennings today, I think this is a very important field which we must address in the workforce is about the teacher's mental state and the socio-emotional status and how that affects assessment. It will be very interesting for us to know that angle aspect too. Uh, I
True,
also
that's a
now,
very critical factor,
yeah,
because the kind of opinions, the perceptions that you have about children's behavior would really be impacted by the assessor's modes and disposition also.
absolutely.
for sure.
So we like to hear even Sharmila
Of
what
course,
she has
yes.
to say to
Yes,
Dharti.
yes. I really enjoyed your presentation, Datti, and I do agree that assessment is an integral part of any school, any year, whether it's formative, whether it's a young 5-year-old or a 15-year-old. And your points were very relevant. Moods of children as well as teachers, very important. Moods are created even depending on the time of the day. Whether it's end of the day, whether children are looking forward to going home, or whether it's early morning. So we have to really take care of time of the day and also the previous activity. If they've just come back from PE or gym or anything of that sort, then probably their minds would still be wandering. So a lot of relevant points, and I think this is a very important study that you've carried out. And I truly hope that you can take this further. So thank you for your presentation. Yeah, thank
Thank you so much, Sharmila ma'am, Rekha ma'am, Shobha ma'am. It really means a lot to me. Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much. Uh, Grishma has pointed out to us that, oh, okay, we still have, I think the plenary will start in another 10 minutes. So if there are any other questions, I request the attendees, any feedback, comments, please feel free to raise it with Sharmila and Dharti. They are here to talk more about the research that they have done. While they're posting their questions, I also wanted to really appreciate Dharti for having established the correlation between the teacher qualifications and the assessment. Assessment is an area which is not very clear with the educators who are not formally trained, and it can be intimidating them, and because always the traditional ways of doing assessing children plays in their mind, and there's an influence of that which is yet to rub off and go away, so and understand the scientific way of doing it. So there's lots to do, and I'm sure you have established that relationship with the educational qualification, how the scene has changed and how it is being more formally done, and how it is building capacities for the children and or for the parents to understand where the children can be supported. So I like that aspect of yours, Dharti.
Thank you, ma'am. I would also like to add that in accordance with my results as well as the previous researches done, most researchers have also said that uh, having a higher qualification tends the teachers to have to be more aware of their own shortcomings in the classroom. So that when teachers have completed a bachelor's or master's degree in their own ECC specialization or education, they have a greater understanding of how assessment is done because they've already done, say, like internships, so they already have practice in hand experience with the children it co- when there comes a time when they have to assess children. Uh, as well as, on the other hand, the teachers who have completed diploma wouldn't have that much of an exposure with working with children and their moods. So that is where assessment becomes flawed. They
Dati,
wouldn't
I
be
just
able
want
to.
to say one thing here. What about there are some teachers who may not even be teachers, sometimes even parents. We observe that they have those innate qualities of understanding their children and getting and extracting the best out of children under their care. What about that? Then it's not just the qualification, but also that ability to understand what exactly is needed at that point in time. So you may sometimes, as I'm heading my section, I also feel that very poorly trained teachers also come up with some very fabulous ideas and approaches, because they exactly understand their students. And so even parents sometimes, so a parent can have the right approach to understanding and knowing her child or his child, and therefore the children really excel with the home environment. I mean, that is my observation. So that also
Yes.
can be, yeah.
When we are looking at assessment, one of the major things that's required for a comprehensive assessment is a good knowledge of child development and the milestones that happen at every stage.
Yeah.
There can be some parents who are intuitive, and a lot of research has shown that you do good parenting when you have been brought up by parents who are very gentle, emotionally available, and so automatically that is being followed by the next generation. But we can't really depend on just these intuitive parents to have comprehensive assessment. I personally, being in teacher education for last 30 years, I feel that we do need to train and educate and make our ECE professionals very very thorough in assessment, with a proper knowledge of child development, the milestones, what they are capable of, and the developmentally appropriate practices. That is when assessment is going to be meaningful in order to help both the children and the parents to bring up their children, and that's when
Absolutely.
that's can be meaningful.
I think nowadays even parents will need good amount of training.
Yes.
By
True.
school workshops help a lot.
Yes. Yes.
uh,
Absolutely,
Yes.
because
absolutely.
we can
Sharmila,
develop.
I also wanted to, when I was reading your paper, it was really very interesting to see all the strategies that you had used to make the, for the GRP program.
Yeah.
And especially the one that I mean, I really noticed was the compare and contrast Venn diagram one, and then I thought it was a very interesting thing to come in as a
Yes.
reading exercise
Yes.
and getting children as
Yes.
young as senior KG and first standard go through the Venn diagram. I mean,
Yes.
if you could talk about that, it would be very
Sure,
interesting.
sure, of course, of course. It's one of the tools that we use. Venn diagram goes a big way because it's all comparing and contrasting. When children are learning reading, it's nothing but compare and contrast. And even when they are able to uh, compare certain things, even concepts. So Venn diagram is introduced to them for concept development and to weigh each concept. So when we look at Bloom's taxonomy, say for example, we are reaching the higher level. So we take these children step by step towards, it is totally age appropriate. I mean, there is nothing tedious. So Venn diagram could be just for a dog and a cat, for example. So a dog barks and a cat meows. So so it's fun way of doing things. The basic understanding that is being created is that we need to compare things, we need to see what the contrasts are in any given situation and a concept. So, and therefore build comprehension to a deeper level. So, the whole effort of any reading program is to build comprehension, because we read for understanding, and the other factors automatically follow. So, that is the whole idea. So, other than annotating, using Venn diagram, using different comparative KWN charts, so there are many, many methods that we use. I unfortunately did not have enough time to explain, but the whole GRP program is completely consolidated with fun-filled activities, and yeah, so I'm glad that
Yeah.
you like that
Yeah,
approach.
and I just thought that in this compare and contrast thing, it actually hits the nail on the straight,
Yes,
because the reading ability of drawing
yes,
inferences
yes,
and then making meaning for you, it
yes,
just lands in the right place, I
right,
felt.
yes.
And so it was very interesting for me to read about it.
Thank you. Yes, yes, definitely.
So thank you so much, Sharmila and Dharti and Shobha, for supporting. and for your lovely presentations. I think we'll close the session now and
Sure.
we'll move on to the plenary, which is the third plenary. And
Yeah.
we'll see you tomorrow also for day
Thank
three of all events.
you.
Thank you
Sure.
so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Ms.
Thank
Menon.
you, Dharti and Sharmila. It was
Yeah,
wonderful to see your presentations and your work.
thank
All
you
the
very
best.
much. Thank
Thank
you. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye
very
bye.
much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ankur.
Thank you, Ankur. Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So we can leave. No, Rekha?
Yes, please. You may leave the stage. Yeah.